Legend of the Three Sisters, Book 1 through 3. Book 1. The legend of Les Trois Sœurs is often repeated in Orlais and has an incredible number of variations. In some, the sisters are depicted as innocent on the surface, but eagerly engaging in bawdy exploits the moment they escape from their chaperone. In others, the sisters are heroic, valiantly solving any number of problems, sometimes unintentionally, before returning home. In still others, the sisters are clueless, bumbling from one adventure to the next, unwittingly leading riots and chaos in their wake. The nature depends on who is telling the story or where they heard it last. Sometimes it's a raunchy tale for tavern drunks. Other times it's a scandalous tale told to criticize either the empress or the chantry. There are some elements in common between all these stories, however. They always revolve around the adventures of three sisters of the Montebellard clan, Brielle, Marie, and Charisse. They are depicted as young women, typical of Orlesian nobility, versed in social graces, but innocent of the world outside of their sheltered existence. One day, while traveling with their chaperone, always referred to as La Bête, and usually depicted as a large and vindictive woman, they become separated and lost on the streets of Valriot. Bewildered at finding themselves alone, the three sisters panic and end up in the infamous Belle Marche, an area of the capital renowned for its garish and celebratory seediness. In all versions of the legend, this is where the sisters' adventures truly begin. From Tales of Valriot by Lord Werner Jacquin. Book 2. Typically, the three sisters react in similar manner upon entering the Belle Marche. Charisse is the adventurous one, intrigued by all the sights and sounds of the market and the most heedless of any dangers. Marie is the brash one, the most suspicious of everything she sees and the one who makes withering, sarcastic comments even if she allows her sisters to drag her along. Brielle, meanwhile, is always the innocent one. She's depicted as wide-eyed and startled, like a doe lost in the wilderness. Yet by the end of the tale, she is also the one who bursts out of her shell the most. A common initial stop for the girls, for instance, is the White Rose. It's an infamous establishment in the Belle Marche, serving tea and cakes to noble patrons by day, and at night transforming into a house of ill repute filled with male and female prostitutes in elegant dress. The girls go there because the building is fashionable, someplace they can escape from the market's crowds. Inside, Marie is the first to realize that the friendly gentlemen are not what they seem. Brielle is scandalized, but it's Charisse who runs off to dance with these men despite her sister's protests. This leads to a chase through the White Rose, Marie and Brielle stumbling into room after room where they are confronted with various patrons. Empress Celine herself is frequently mentioned. Marie scathingly berates these patrons, while Brielle is intrigued despite herself and eventually drawn off when Marie isn't looking. Marie throws her hands up in disgust and joins a dwarf in smoking an illicit substance from a wild contraption. It's at this point in the tale where the girl's desperate chaperone, La Bête, appears in the White Rose and things truly get interesting. Details vary, but by the end of this part of the tale, the White Rose is in flames, La Bête has plummeled her way through a legion of clueless patrons, and the three sisters are led out the back door by a charming elf, completely unaware anything is amiss behind them. To my knowledge, however, the White Rose has never burned to the ground in its entire existence and maintains a legion of guards that makes such antics implausible. Even so, the tale is stubbornly believed to be true even in Valriot itself. From Tales of Valriot by Lord Werner Jacquin. Book 3. As with the stop in the White Rose, the individual tales of the three sisters are often told on their own, seldom in a saga repeated in its entirety. Indeed, one of the few times an attempt to do so was as a play in the Grand Royal Theatre and sharply criticized Define Justinia's attempts at reform. The play was quickly banned after only 3 performances. A book titled The Three Brothers was later published in Manrathus, citing the exploits of 3 Tevinter brothers who find themselves lost in Valriot and spend their time ridiculing Orlesian culture. Despite claims in Tevinter that it is the original, it is quite clear the Three Sisters legend far predates it. Throughout the legend's various incarnations, the most commonly depicted adventures include: the sisters are convinced to drink dwarven ale by a handsome nobleman with sinister intentions. The reactions to the ale vary, but usually by the end of this tale, the sisters end up on a wild chase after the nobleman through the streets of the Belle Marche until he jumps into the river and drowns. The sisters ask for help from a group of dwarven merchants who say they will do so only if the sisters solve a clever riddle. The nature of the riddle varies, but the dwarves always cheat the sisters in the end. Typically, the encounter ends with the sisters fleeing before they are sold into slavery, though sometimes the legend has them clubbing the lead dwarf to death with paddles until the other dwarves run off. They are drawn into the annual Saturnalia parade, usually at the climax of the story, until the Imperial army descends upon the revelers and starts a chaotic chain reaction that results in the sisters either stowing aboard a pirate ship or wading through the elven alienage's sewers. it seems to change each age. Once their chaperone Labette catches up with the girls, they usually hang their heads in shame and return to the Montebellard manse to resume good and honest lives. Not always, however. The most recent versions of the legend have the sisters remaining in Vario to fight criminals while wearing black masks, though I honestly cannot tell where this comes from. From Tales of Vario by Lord Werner Jacquin.